Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Meedra Surratte. I'm the Executive Director of Parent Information Center of Delaware, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn on understanding the dispute resolution system. And we're talking specifically today about mediation in the dispute resolution system. A little bit about Parent Information Center of Delaware. We are a statewide nonprofit organization that provides support to parents of children with disabilities or special health care needs. And we support families in a number of ways, including providing training such as the one that you're participating in today, where we connect you with our guest speakers that can provide additional information on matters that impact both our special education and other issues in our education and healthcare systems. I want to invite you first you should see a pretest on your screen. And we invite you to complete the pretest. It is anonymous. And that's just a way to help us measure if we are meeting our goals and objectives and we're able to provide you the support. We met our goals in terms of providing the support and the resources and information that you were looking for. I will now turn it over to my co-presenters, Kathy Murphy and Maria Lacuniak, who will introduce themselves.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maria Lacuniak, and I'm an education associate here at the Delaware Department of Education. And part of my responsibilities include managing the dispute resolution system. So I'm happy to be here talking about this with you today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kathy Murphy, and I am with the University of Delaware. And one of the programs that I'm involved in through the University of Delaware is called SPARC, and it's the Special Education Partnership for the Amicable Resolution of Conflict. And it is the program that provides statewide special education mediation services.
Great, thank you both. All right.
Okay, so we'll start out today telling you our agenda. First, we'll provide a brief background on the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, otherwise known as IDEA, and the dispute resolution system. We'll talk about what is mediation, the role and responsibilities of the mediator in mediation, and we'll try to tease out some assumptions versus reality. And then we'll move into the role and responsibilities of the advocate in mediation. And again, try to talk through some assumptions versus what the reality is. Okay, so what is the IDEA? Well, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is a law that makes available a free, appropriate public education to eligible children with disabilities throughout the nation. And it also ensures special education and related services are provided to those children. So what is dispute resolution? Well, that's a system that is required under that IDEA law and is designed as part of the state's general supervisory responsibility in order to ensure implementation of IDEA's dispute resolution procedures. So we have, for example, state complaints, mediation, due process complaints, and due process hearings, including the resolution process. And these are all required under Part B of the IDEA. And the dispute resolution system is a continuum. So there's a continuum of options. So at the lowest end, we have IEP facilitation and mediation. And then taking things up a notch, we have state complaints and due process complaints. So today we're really going to focus on mediation. And we just want you to know that IEP facilitation and mediation are contracted services provided through SPARC from the University of Delaware. And these are free services to both the school district, charter schools, and parents. So this is something that parents can absolutely request and partake in at no cost.
Okay, thank you, Maria. So focusing on the SPARC mediation, SPARC mediators their role is to create a space for families and educators to come together once they've identified that they have a problem, a specific dispute that they would like to resolve, and come together to voice their concerns, talk about the issues, the problems, share their emotions, how they're feeling, their desires, their goals. And during that process, for them to feel heard, to be recognized and understood, and then to explore ways to achieve their desired future. So by their desired future, that can mean some type of resolution, or it could mean that they just decide in the meeting that things are not going to change and they're going to continue on. So not all mediations end in agreement. Some do, some don't. But conflict is brought to the table for a conversation because we see conflict as an opportunity for positive change. That change is going to occur in a way that is comfortable for the parties who are participating. Prior to mediation, the mediator has a confidential conversation with the parent and the school or the district. Now I want to just stop here for a second, because the person having this conversation may or may not be the actual person who mediates the dispute. Sometimes they are, sometimes they are not. And depending on the dispute will determine how many people we need to have a conversation with. We're always speaking with the parent or somebody representing the student, so someone from the family, and usually someone from the school, if that's where the conflict or dispute has originated, and sometimes the district as well. So this is a pre-mediation conversation. Our goal is to understand from the parties that are have been most involved, to understand what has happened, what has led to the conflict. And we're listening to both sides to talk about their perceptions and what they believe occurred and why. Once we've had those conversations, we need to create a list of mediatable issues. So we have to go into mediation with the parties recognizing or agreeing or saying, these are the issues that we'd like to talk about. So we need parties to agree to what those issues are going to be. During the conversation, we also explain the mediation process, how it will work, what their role will be, what they'll be asked to do during mediation. And we also explain the role of the mediator. And the role of the mediator is to serve as a neutral third party, and to help all parties. We then identify dates and times that the parties are available for mediation. And then we can go to the next slide. Once we've identified who will attend mediation, what are the issues that will be mediated, the date, the time, the location, who's mediating, or if it's on Zoom, we send out a confirmation to all parties. And so it's important for us that all parties understand the topics that will be discussed and who will be in attendance. And sometimes that has to be negotiated with the parties that are involved. During mediation, the parties are welcomed by the mediator, and the mediator then goes over the mediation process. So the same process that they talked about pre-mediation. They encourage the parties to talk about their concerns and what they hope to get out of mediation. The mediator is there to assist with communication between the parties by acknowledging what people are saying, acknowledging their concerns, their emotions, how they feel, what they want, why they want it. As a mediator, you're also constantly summarizing what you're hearing and acknowledging where the conversation is going, where there are areas of agreement and where there are still areas of disagreement, and then teasing apart the areas of disagreement. We're also very forward focused. So what do the parties want? What are some solutions? What might that look like? And spending a lot of time pulling apart things that people are sharing. once the parties get to a place, if they're reaching agreement, if they are in agreement with one another, and they then want to document the agreement, we put that in a legally binding agreement. And a mediation is always documented in writing using the words of the parties that are at the table. So it's a very, it's written in layman's terms. It's not written from an attorney's perspective. We use the language and the words that the parties are giving to us. If the parties do not reach a resolution, do not agree, cannot come to agreement, nothing is documented except for the fact that we had the mediation. We acknowledge that we had that, and the parties are free to go and to pursue other avenues of resolving the dispute.
And so Kathy mentioned, provided a brief overview of the process and kind of walked through expectations. And in our role at PIC as a supportive capacity to families is to really help you understand the process so you can make an informed decision when considering mediation or any other matters of or processes within the dispute resolution process. And so it's really important. Oftentimes families have support, a supportive person that attends with them, attends meetings or mediation with them. That could be an advocate, that could be a family member or a trusted friend that you bring with you to mediation. And that is encouraged. But it's also equally important to understand the expectations and manage your expectations and know what to expect in that process. And so in our role, we educate, or an advocate's role, if you're working with one, expect that advocate to educate and inform you about the mediation process, provide information and connect you to resources. So as Kathy and both Maria mentioned, that they are available if you have questions about the mediation process, and just know it's important that you can always call either PIC, you can reach out to SPARC or DOE if you need to clarify, need clarifying questions about the process. You can certainly do that. If you're working with an advocate, that advocate should be knowledgeable about the conflict resolution process, the dispute resolution process, and strategies and options if mediation is unsuccessful. And also should be able to provide meaningful feedback about the effectiveness of mediations with families. So we're always looking to solutions-based. We understand that this is a very challenging time. And if you're at this point, it could be very difficult or emotional or challenging for you, for many families. And so this is anyone that you're working with in terms of that's serving in an advocate capacity or with PIC should be able to provide some support and assistance around what are next steps. And if we're unable to come to an agreement through the mediation process, then what other options do we have to resolve this matter for your child?
Okay, thank you, Meedra. So we're going to talk about when to use mediation. And Meedra, I appreciate you doing that slide because I do think it's important that everyone is aware of the difference between a mediator and an advocate. And certainly there are times where parents really need that support and need an advocate. And we often will suggest when we're speaking with parents prior to mediation that they contact PIC when they are in need of support and would like to bring someone else who has knowledge about the system and how special education works. And mediation also, I'm going to say, is very appropriate as soon as a parent is unhappy. If you've tried resolving an issue in an IEP meeting or with someone at the school and you've went through perhaps a teacher, a principal, maybe somebody from the district, you've talked to a couple of people, don't waste any time. Just put in a request for mediation. Mediation shouldn't be when everyone has waited a year or more and is extremely frustrated. It's a conversation where you have a third party in there that can help everybody see things clear, maybe a little bit clearer, and to quickly resolve something in an hour or so. And so the sooner, the better. It's not offensive to people. It should not be offensive to people. Schools and districts are always willing to go to mediation, so sooner is better. So mediation is appropriate if you are willing to share your views and desired outcomes with the other side. So if you're willing to talk about what's going on, and we'll share that. And it's not appropriate if you want someone else to speak on your behalf. So I don't mean somebody there to support you or can help you can sometimes frame things or to answer some questions for you. But if you don't want to talk to the other side, mediation is not a good idea. Mediation is appropriate if you can listen to the perspectives of the other side. If you're at a place where you can do that, it's probably not appropriate if you don't trust or believe what the other side has to say. It's appropriate if you are open to exploring new ways of resolving the problem. So you have both sides, this is parents and schools, if they are not willing to listen to the other side and hear other options and perhaps be open to new ways of resolving the issue, mediation probably isn't ideal for you, because it's in some ways people do change their minds in mediation. I'd like to see this, I'd like it this way. You know, they can adjust what they expected. If you cannot consider any solution other than your own and you're not going to budge and you think you're going to go to mediation just to get that you got a 50-50 chance. I can't say it's not going to work because sometimes it happens in mediation. Very often it's more of a collaborative problem-solving process. And it's appropriate if your goal is to make things right going forward. So you want to fix the solution and change the future. It's not appropriate if your goal is to focus only on the past and to punish the other side, because we don't have the power to do that in mediation. So assumptions versus reality regarding the mediator. Assumptions are that the mediator can make people do or say things. The reality is the mediator only controls the process, meaning we get people to the table, we guide the conversation, but not what's said. So we don't control the process or the behavior of the parties or what is said there. An assumption is that the mediator decides who is right and who is wrong. We do not focus on who is right or wrong. We know that everybody has their own perspective. Very often both sides believe the other side is wrong, but many times we can see that they can work together and look to the future and talk about how things will be going forward. Another assumption is the mediator helps parties win and get what they want from the other side. The mediator does not do that. They help create a respectful space for the parties to have a conversation with each other. We're there to support all parties equally. And the last assumption listed here is that the mediator determines the outcome of the mediation. They do not. The mediator does not impose or suggest any solutions or any outcome. Why? Because we believe that the parents and the school personnel, the district personnel, they are the experts in the student's education, and they're the ones that should make that decision. And there are other systems, as Maria described earlier, that will give you the option to let another third party, say through a due process hearing, determine who's right and wrong and determine the outcome rather than the parties at the table. So are there questions?
I don't see any.
I don't see it either. Okay.
And if you do have questions, you can always use the chat feature, or you can raise your hand and we will make sure that we can address your question during this presentation. And so following the same format, again, what's key for families in maximizing the mediation process is making an informed decision if mediation is the right tool to resolve your dispute. And so it's important to also outline just the expectations, assumptions of roles within the family. regarding the family or advocates in their role within the mediation process. Families and advocates may expect mediators to intervene when there's a violation of the law or misinterpretation of the law. And that's often an assumption walking into the mediation process. But the reality is mediation, as Kathy mentioned, mediators do not focus on who's right or wrong. However, however, the matters that help resolve the issue. And that's really important because it can be a very frustrating process if your expectation walking into mediation is that the mediator is going to serve in that capacity or operate in that capacity in terms of violations or misinterpretations of the law. Another assumption that we've come across is that advocates will provide guidance and speak on behalf of the families during mediation sessions. And that's not always the case. It depends on the advocate, and it depends on the conversation and the agreement between the advocate and the parent. Some families are absolutely comfortable with advocates speaking or asking for clarification or clarifying questions during mediation. And others, the agreement may be that the parents will operate in that forefront. And so the reality is advocates may speak on behalf of the family. The purpose of mediation, again, is to resolve a conflict between parties. And in many instances, the advocates serve in a supportive capacity to families. And so that agreement, again, is between you as the family and you and the advocate. Another assumption that we've seen or we've heard is that advocates will interpret information for families. And again, here, advocates may serve in that capacity, and that is the agreement between the family and the advocate. However, they may also provide clarifying statements made to convey to families to ensure understanding, which could be their primary role. So it's not to be assumed that the advocates will interpret this information or serve in that capacity when participating in the meeting. The last assumption are disputes and conflicts are rarely resolved via mediation. And mediation can be an effective tool in the dispute resolution process when all parties are clear of the purpose and the process and expectations. And so again, understanding the process and knowing what to expect and preparing beforehand really helps to maximize the effectiveness of the mediation and moving towards a positive outcome using this process, this system, and having those conversations with either PIC or reaching out to SPARC to answer any questions that you may have prior to mediation could also help you make an informed decision as to if this is the best course of action to resolve your conflict with the school or district. And so to our participants, do you have any other assumptions or questions about the advocate's role or the advocacy, serving in an advocacy capacity in mediation? And I'll check there is a question here.
Yes.
Who and how does the mediation process, or how is it initiated? If the parent calls who, PIC, SPARC, and parents need to initiate, or the school district can initiate. And I think we can all address that, but you can actually, it's both and all of the above. You could contact PIC if you had questions about the mediation process, and our staff can provide you with the information to initiate that process and connect you with SPARC. Parents can also request mediation. And Kathy, did you want to speak to the district's role and how the mediations are initiated on that side?
Yes. I mean, most of the time it is being initiated by the parents. And as you said, Meedra, they can call you, they can call us. If a parent calls us, they don't have to know they want mediation. We do offer IEP facilitation services, so you can just call and talk with us about what's going on. It's confidential. We listen, we spend time. And once we understand, we're assessing when you call whether or not it is appropriate for mediation or IEP facilitation, or in some cases, which happens rather frequently, a parent is really looking more for an advocate, and we refer them to PIC. So how do we know that? Is because they go, no, we don't need anybody coming to an IEP meeting right now. I just need to understand my child's getting everything, if this IEP is written well, if they're getting all the services. I just have some questions about what's written on this IEP, things like that. So you can call us, we'll talk with you. If you call for mediation, it's confidential. Everything's kept confidential. And then we summarize by, if you do want to go to mediation, the things I said, like what will be mediated, when are you available? And then we reach out to the school and the district. Now, I will always say to the parent, do you want to contact them first and let them know? The parent will say yes or no. They say yes, I wait until they let me know, and then I will reach out. And if the parent doesn't want to reach out to the school district, we can do that too. And we just say, we've had this request. Schools and districts are used to that. And we have a conversation with them. So what other resources would you recommend in addition to SPARC, PIC, and GOE? So I am looking, there is a book that I very often recommend. Other than that, I don't have any other recommendations. Meedra, you might.
Yeah, I think so. There are a number of resources that are available, but I think it's specific to your concern or question or the issue that you're dealing with in terms of what resources you might be looking for. So there are a number of tools or resources that help with advocacy and effective skills for advocacy and how to negotiate and get the support that you need. There are a number of resources in terms of disability specific resources that might be ideal for families. And so I think that that would, rather than, in order to provide the most effective answer, I think it would be specific to your individual case or your specific situation. And I do invite you to give us a call or reach out to us if you have a specific question, so we can point you in the right direction in terms of additional resources that might be useful to you. All right. Are there any other questions? Perfect. And again, you know, this is a lot of information. This information is being recorded. And so please, by all means, once it's posted on our website, you can play the recording and access this information. And you can always reach out to us. Our contact information is available here for you. Before we conclude, if you could just take a few more moments to complete the post test. Again, we want to measure that we were able to provide some level of information in your understanding of the mediation process. And if not, what questions or how we can address any questions or clarify any information for you. Maria or Kathy, did you want to add anything before we conclude it today?
Meedra, I just typed in the chat. I hope it came up. I said a better phone number is 831-8158. That's our general line. We're having some changes in our phone systems here, and that's my direct line, which I hope still works.
I didn't see it in the chat, so I'm going to put it in here now.
Thank you. It's 831-8158. Thank you, Meedra.
Absolutely.
So, yes. And so again, I'll just say about us is we have a very narrow scope of work that we do as a mediator. Anytime it's something beyond what we do, I typically am referring the parent over to PIC, because I feel like, as Meedra said, it depends on what your needs are, where they'll refer you. I think they have more knowledge about that. And that's why I'd like to connect parents to PIC as much as I can when they are in need of any kind of information, support, knowledge about the system. And So, but I'm always happy to talk about the services that we can provide and which is a good fit. And again, last thing I'm going to say is I encourage parents to get an IEP facilitator or mediator if you need one sooner than later. It's better to do it sooner. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to do this webinar today.
Thanks, Kathy. Maria, did you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for having us today. It was a pleasure to share this information, and certainly if you have questions about mediation or any of the other dispute resolution options on that continuum, there's my email and phone number. I'd be happy to talk with you more.
Thank you both. And I would just echo both Maria and Kathy and thanking you for joining us today. And again, please reach out if you have any questions or concerns. Immediately following this presentation, you'll receive a link to complete a survey. Please take a few moments just to answer those questions, because that tells us how we're doing and if this information was useful to you. Thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Meedra,
Yes.
I see
Yes.
one more thing popping up.
Oh,
About something about I'm not sure where it went, but who would be an IEP facilitator?
yes, I see it
and-
now.
Okay, would that not be the admin or educational diagnostician? Yes, typically it would be. However, when the IEP meeting meets a couple times and cannot reach agreement, cannot get an agreement for the entire team, and there's a dispute, say, between parent, family, and school, you can request an IEP meeting facilitator. So somebody who comes in and will facilitate the next IEP meeting, who has training in dealing with conflict and differences of opinion. And again, they're not going to impose an outcome, because all decisions made in IEP meeting are made by the team, but they can help facilitate a difficult conversation. Okay, where are they located or contacted? PIC? No, they're through the SPARC program.
And so you would reach out to SPARC if you were interested in learning more, or you wanted to start that process with IEP meeting facilitation. And I would add that it's actually a pretty effective process for families. It can be an effective process for families. And Delaware is one of a few states that offers that. That is not available in every state IEP facilitation. But we are, that is a useful system that we have in the state that has been really effective for families.
You're welcome, Allison. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.